Chapter 6. The realistic conception of the ultimate unity and the doctrine of illusion. What now? It is the nature of single all encompassing pathogenistic being that is being discovered. It must process as many qualities as there are the whole of real world which is constitute. The attributes of all possible qualities being the whole, it's made of the famous Sandilya section of Chandogya. Purely, this whole world is Brahma, he who consists of mind, whose mind is life, and who forms light, whose conception is true, whose soul is Atman in space, containing all the world's works, containing all desires, containing all odors, containing all tastes, encompassing the whole world, the unspeaking, the consonant, smaller than a grain of rice and beer, barley, corn, and mustard seed, or a grain of millet, or the kernels of grain of millet. Yet greater the earth, greater the atmosphere, greater the sky, greater of this world. It must be capable of all contradictories. Unmoving, the one is swifter than the mind. The sense power reach not, it's pending on for before. Past other running, this goes standing. It is then Mantarish one place action. It moves not, it far, it's near, it's within all things, it is outside all things. Sitting, he proceeds afar, lying, he goes everywhere. The diverse identification and the constitution of the pathistic being are further expressed in the verses. As fire, he warms, he is a sun, he is a bountiful rain, he is a wind, he is earth, matter, and he is a God. Being and not being, what is it? What is immortal? What is it knowing as being and not being? The necessary of postulating in the substrate itself of the world the whole store of matters and qualities which exist in the world. Yet the summary contained the Brihad, where the Brahma is described as a made of knowledge of mind, the breath, the self sense of hearing, of earth, of water, of wind, of space, of energy, of non energy, of desire, of non desire, of anger and of non-anger, of virtueness and non-virtueness, and it is made of everything. It is what is being by seeing, made of this and made of that. But such a realistic conception of Brahma as an conglomerate of subversive of very idea of unity, which is a concept of Brahma fundamentally significant. All of this diverse material, objects, cycle, function, mental states as such, we could regard it as a material composing of structure of unitary world ground. Yet there is a diversity and manifolds of being of world which cannot be regarded as existing apart from the world grounds. How account for that? One of the old cosmologies where Brahma wished that he was made perform austerities and procreated himself and rejected his whole world from himself. He stated that he entered into a double nature. He became both the actual land and the yon, both the defined and the undefined, both based and the not based form, both the consciousness and the non-consciousness, both the real and the false. Here is perhaps the first emergence of thought, which is the solution of the equation put above. It is a distinction made between so-called phenomenal and now mental, between the sensuational perceived and that is what cannot be thus brought into consciousness but no can only be a thought. The notion that there is must be in realistic which is not within the sphere of senses or within the world of what is called common sense experiences, the expresses itself here and there in the early part of Upanyas as in the Chant. All beings are one fourth of them, or three fourth immortal in the sky. Also the Brihad. Him they see not, for he is incomplete. And later also more like the modern conception of immanence and transcendence in the Brihad. He who dwelling in the earth yet another and than the earth, whose body the earth, who is control of the earth and from within, and similarly 20 other objects. as the one wind has entered the world and becomes corresponding in the form of every form. So the one internal soul of all things, it corresponding in a form and every form yet outside. But it is by the distinction between the noumental and the phenomenal that is apparent conflict in the one and the many soul. This is a noteworthy passage, Brihat, in declaring that life, the prana, the breath, the designation of Atman, verily in immortal, name and the form, the usage for signifies individually as of their natural. But them, this is life is veiled. Similarly, Brihat, the mystic meaning apanyas therefore is a real in the real. Breathing creatures verily are of real. This is for real. Brihud make the distinction explicit, affirming that there are surely two forms of Brahma. It is the same thought of section closed within the word Brihud, just cited, but the effort of express the great truth find itself halted and falling back directly upon the earthly sensational consumption which is endowed in the rise above. These two forms of Brahmas are formed and unformed, the mortal and the immortal, the stationary and the moving, actual and the own. As regarded as the Vedic nature, God unfolded, immortal, moving, yonder Brahma in the wind and the atmosphere. The essence of that is a person is a sun disk. The formed, the mortal, the stationary, the actual Brahma is what? It is a different from the wind and the atmosphere. Its essence in the sun which goes forth heat. As regards the self, the unformed, the immortal, moving, yonder, Brahma in the breath and the space in the heart. Its essence is the person of the right eye, the formed, mortal, stationary, and actual Brahma, in which different from the breath and the intercardistic space. In essence, in the eye, it's being a typical of sense by which the phenomenon is perceived. The glorious, brilliant nature of the higher Brahma is represented by the smiles on of the bright and shining, a saffron color robe, which a wool, a purple beetle, a flame of fire, a white lotus flower, and sudden flash of lighting. But immediately there follows a warning that a nominal Brahma cannot be presented of the senses, indeed cannot be defined by the positive characteristics. Niti, niti, not this, not this, not so. Nevertheless, the reality of individual phenomenal actually is through stating with and making use of sense data and accepting a strange pair of differentia, namely stationary and the moving, and for the actual and the yon, and the phenomenal and the no mental Brahmas, which section nevertheless advanced toward the final identity conception of reality, in which the Pantheism of Upanishads led. Two Brahmas decide again the Maitri, and there are assuredly two forms of Brahma, time and the timelessness, timeless. That which is prior to the sun is timeless, Akala, and with parts, Akal. But is Akal. But that which begins with the sun is time which has parts. The thought begins to appear that all is one and manifold differences seem so real in experience and non-constituting the inner being of the one. They must be the one of appropriate phenomenon. So again, the two Brahmas were desired at Maitri. Verily, there are two Brahmas to meditate upon, sound and the non-sound. Now, non-sound is revealed by only sound. Of it, there are sevenfold comparison, like river, the bell, the bristle vessel, the wheel, the croaking of frogs, the rain, as when one speaks in the sheltered place. Passing before the various characterized sound Brahma, men disappear in the supreme, the non-sound, unmanifest Brahma. The two Brahmas, the one manifold with sense qualities, and the other is super phenomenal unity where accepts was both real through his different ways. They were both the higher and the lower of month and Prashna, the fold of Svit. They form the subject matter and two knowledges to be known, and indeed the knowers of Brahma and known to say higher and the lower. The lower knowledge of various sciences, but the higher is whereby the imperishable in approached. The importance of the complete knowledge of Brahma is affirmed by Khatya. He can indeed be comprehended by thought, he and by a real nature, admitting and real nature he comprehensibility and incomprehensibility. But the dueling the world grounds this postulation of two Brahmas when the fundamental and repeating axiom of the whole Upanistic speculation was that there is only one Brahma without a second, induced by a way of correction the further development of previous conception of phenomenality. The reality is one. Diversity and manifoldness are only on appearance. There is on earth no diversity. He gets death after death. Who perceives here something diversity as a unity only it is to be looked upon. The indemonstrable enduring being. Shankara reconciled the opposition between two Brahmas and one Brahma, the end of the commentary and Vedanta Sutras. The seer sees not death, not sickness, nor any distress. The seer sees only the all, obtain all eternally. This is not the Brahma, the undifferenced unity. The lower Brahma of sense of manifolds in which everything appears as a self-subsistent entity. It is merely an appearance due a person's ignorance, and that's all entirely one. And that is an illusion. So the Maitri says plainly of all the two Brahmas, there are surely two forms of Brahmas, the formed and the formless. Now, that which is formed is unreal, that which is formless is real. And distinction between the phenomenal and super phenomenal was, as being described, made quite early in the Upanistic thought from first the phenomenal thought, admitting a part of the reality of the world, it is only a fragment of the totality. Him they see not, for a seen is an incomplete, whether worship one or another an individual manifestation. He knows not, for his incomplete with one and another of this. Brihat, in more ignorance and avidya and one's own part, then allow him to rest in the things of sense as the ultimate being of the world. But this ignorance and non knowledge is remediable under the instruction of consenting and underlying unity. But soon as the conception arose, the error is attributable not so much oneself as the another which hides the unitary nature. There is nothing by which it is not covered, nothing by which is not a hid. Brihut. The poetically expressed life verily is immortal, name and the form was real, but them the life is veiled. He who essentially won, the inner soul, Antaradhaman, all things, who makes this one many manifold, performing a piece of supernatural magic in appearing in many. He becomes and corresponding in the form of every form. This is looked upon the form of Kim. Indra by his magic powers Maya goes about many forms and yoked are his 10 hundred steeds. This is first occurrence in Upanyasa word Maya in the plural to be noticed in the quotation of Rig Veda, where it has occurred many times in the meaning supernatural powers or artifice. It is this thought which is developed in the theory of cosmic illusion, which is expressed with the favorite proof text of the Upanyas of the later Maya doctrine. The whole world is illusion maker projects out of the Brahma, and it is it by illusion the other is confined. Now one should know the nature of its illusion, and this is the mighty Lord in the illusion maker. Such was the beginning of that, was became a prominent doctrine of later Vedanta. The doctrine of Maya, or the inevitable illusoriness of all human cognition. It is a yearly development that it did not base itself in many upon what was chief source of early Greek subceptionism, Psychism, nearly illusion of the sense. The sole reference to them is the Upanyas and the Kantha. As the sun, the eye of the whole world, it is not swayed by the external faults of the eyes. It is not used as an argument of illusion through the Shankara is a commentary in loco explaining by the stock smiley of later Vedanta, in which the piece of rope lying by the sideway appears in the daylight as a snake in the belated traveler. On the contrary, the sight is to philosopher of Upanyas the symbol of truth. The sight is the truthfulness, for when they say the man who sees within his eyes, have you seen? And say, I have seen. That is the truth. Brihad. Similarly, or Brihad. Doctrine of illusion then was a speculative outcome of conflict between the phenomenal and the super phenomenal, between the lower and the higher Brahma. It is logical. The how in the philosophy of Upanyas maintained it was my judgment and erroneous position that Upanyas teach pure Vedantism of Shankara and flourished at least 1,000 years after this date. The Kahut book is filled with explanation bringing in similarities in rope and snake and distinct pose seeing in the man and mirage of sand and reflection of the sun on water, etc. All of this is drawn from Shankara's even later Hindu philosopher and not from the Upanyas. The conclusion of the abstract perception as the nature and the possibility of the pure unity, which those thinkers conceived as the essence of reality, is to which they pressed on the great goal of all speculation. In the manifold world senses further no such unity and therefore had to be abandoned and illusory and unreal in favor of the undifferenced unity into which they were driven as a based underlying illusion which just because of beyond all senses and distinction and limitation of all kind in the real Brahma. As a unity, only it is to be looked upon the indemonstrable, enduring being. The attempt of the desire is a pure entity, unity of being or numerous. The Brahma is without the earlier, without the later, without the inside, without the outside. For him, the east and other direction exists nor none across, nor below, nor above. He is unlimited, Maitri. It is not a coarse, not a fine, not a short, not long, not glowing, not adhesive, without shadows, without darkness, without air, without space, without sickness, orderless, tasteless, without eye, without ear, without voice, without mind, without energy, without breath, without mouth, without personality, or without family name, and unaging, undying, without fear, immortal, stainless, non-covered, non-uncovered, non-covered. Without the measure, without inside, without outside, it consumes nothing soever. No one soever consumes it. What is a soundless, touchless, formless, imperishable, likewise tasteless, constant, odorless, without beginning, without end, higher than the greater? That would be invisible, ungraspable, without family, without caste, without sight of hearing, yes. Is it without hand or without foot, eternal? Month. It's a part of all mortal, casual, or temporal relations, not must put him arise on the purposes of qualities and take him as an substale only. Kanda. The ultimate is a void and any mark, a linga. Whether a kanda without the qualities nirguna above the higher Brahma, there is a teaching, not thus, not so. Niti. For nothing higher than this negative definition. Indefinable, inconvincible, mere negative statements are all this a stone of pure being awakes for this of incapable of the qualification, determination, diversity, and imposed of descriptive obstruction. This is exactly the conclusion which Spinoza reaches with him and many respect similar pathism. The famous ductum omnis doctrine negatosta how now it is kind of real Brahma to be known. The practical method is stated in Skanda, frequent elsewhere that is one who thought the complete guru, a teacher, might find Brahma as to course of superseded. The process of speculation has taken Brahma to that far off, transcend which is a quick question whether it may be reached or known to all. Certainly, not above, not across. Not in the middle as one grasps him. There is no likeness of him, whose name is a great glory. This form is not to be beheld. No one soever sees him with his eye. They who know him with the heart and mind as abiding in the heart and became immortal. But no, the higher Brahma is not accessible to knowledge but a sense by thought, by instruction. There the eye goes not, the speech goes not, nor the mind. We know not, and we understand not how one should teach it. Hereby the clear word such things, thought in the mind not having attained, not more the bare existence as to postulated, not by the sense, not by the mind, not by the sight, not by the apprehended. How can he is comprehension? Otherwise, that is not the say he is. But even here is a real point in toggle, as a determined describing qualification is negating. He who rules ignorance and the knowledge is another. Brahma is higher than understanding. Other indeed is that of known, and moreover about unknown. Into the blind darkness even the and the worship ignorance. The darkness greater than that is was it bare. The delight is in knowledge. The indeed they say than knowledge. Other they say that is non-knowledge. Thus we heard about the wise who to us has unexplained it. Utterly inconceivable the purpose of Brahma, they say the attempts to convince the inherited it's one not known, the essential fact about it. This is follow the paradox. It is conceived by him by whom it is not conceived of. Is the whom who conceived of or known it not. It is not understood by those who say that understand it. It is understood by those who say they understand it not such as an outcome of a long circuitous journey to reach that is the ultimate unity of reach which is in timely foreseen long before the rig veda which has been the goal of all the succeeding super speculation. What is it? We pass and say that has now been reached. One of the hand is illustrated word, and on the other hand is unknowable reality. Honesty and the uncertainty that is a thinkers of Upanya sought to find the true nature of the world and experience and the beyond. This constant lures them on, but it is proved to be an igneous just fatuous. Yet they did not give up in the desire of agnosticism and in disappointment of failure. The glimpses which they had the final unity and frequency suggested that the self must be accounted for the unity of being. They had found an underlying bias of subjectivity and objective great Atman the world soul like upon self-known soul and inclusive of that the but itself external it. And they had found the great atman was identical that is a great brahma the power of efficacy and that actually is the world but the explanation of the phenomenal and the nominal that brahma has fallen upon and we vanished one part into the illusion and the other into the unknowable.